All right, hello everybody. With the introduction of the new iOS 7 last week, there's been some changes to the things that are available with accessibility. So today we're going to take a look at some of those key things that might be available with the new iOS 7 in terms of accessibility. One of the key features that won't be necessarily talked about as an accessibility feature are some of the new capabilities with the Siri system. With Siri, you're no longer just able to go ahead and ask it questions. You can now start apps or turn certain things on and off, certain functions on and off. So for somebody that may use VoiceOver, for example, where in the past they'd have to either set it to the triple click home or go in and turn on VoiceOver, now if you hold down your home button and pull up Siri, start VoiceOver.
Okay, I turned on VoiceOver.
So now the VoiceOver settings are on. I can also do the same thing if I'm in VoiceOver. I can turn on Siri, turn VoiceOver off, and it will turn VoiceOver off. Something that might be helpful to see for somebody that's using Siri for the first time is some of the things that you can say to Siri. So Siri has a function where if you tap the Siri button, you can say, "What can I say?" And it'll show you the things that you can say to it, with like FaceTime, launching an app, calendar things, Twitter, Facebook, Maps, lots of different things, email, weather, clock. But the key thing is this settings, turn certain modes or settings on, and the app launching. So launch a certain app. That would be some of the new things in Siri that might be helpful. Let's go into our settings and take a look at some of the new components to accessibility. So if we go into General and we choose Accessibility, one of the first areas that I want to show you is there's been quite a bit that's been actually done within VoiceOver, that's changed within VoiceOver. Not something that you're going to really deal with unless you're a heavy VoiceOver user, but one of the things that I want to show you is if we go down to the rotor. Remember from previous videos, the rotor allows you to put your fingers on the screen and turn it like a dial, and it gives you several different options. Here's all the options that are in that you can add to your rotor. If you scroll down toward the bottom of this, there's an option at the very bottom called handwriting. If you add handwriting into this, let me show you what this is going to do. We'll go into a note. So what handwriting allows us to do through the rotor is if we can't type using the keyboard, we can actually write a letter on our screen with our finger and it will type it for us. So I'm going to turn VoiceOver on by telling Siri to do that. Turn VoiceOver on.
Okay, I turned on VoiceOver.
And now we'll go back into my note.
Note. Hi, my note.
I'm in the note area and I had started to write, "Hi, my name is."
Is editing.
Now, if I want to type using the handwriting feature, I'm going to take my fingers, like I'm going to twist a dial, and I'm going to twist that dial on the iPad screen.
Handwriting.
And so it says handwriting. Then let it go. And I am going to I'll start writing from here. I'll start writing, "Hi, my name is" again. So now if I take my finger and write on the screen a lowercase h, that picked it up as an N. So if I wanted to backspace that, I'd take two fingers and swipe to the left.
N.
And now I can try that again.
H.
There's an H. There's an I. That came up as an L, but I'm trying to write an I.
I.
There we go. And now if I want to space, I take two fingers and swipe to the right.
Space.
So I'm just drawing these letters on my screen.
M.
You can't see what I'm doing,
Y. Space.
but you can
Y.
hear and see that popping up on here. I'm just writing lowercase letters
M.
on my screen.
E.
Now I'll try and do an uppercase J. Let's see if we can do that.
J.
No, it didn't give me an uppercase, but uppercase and lowercase J's don't look pretty similar. Let's try something like A.
A.
So it's picking up in lowercase right now. But that's a very simple way to write something. It's a nice new feature for writing something if you need to use VoiceOver and you can't use a keyboard very well. I'm going to turn VoiceOver off again. Turn VoiceOver off. I'm going to turn VoiceOver off. And let's head back into our settings and check out the thing that most people were probably most looking forward to in this new iOS, and that's down here in the physical area. That's in the physical access area down here, and it is the switch control setting. So if we go into switch control, I guess before we go into switch control, I will tell you one of the things that you're going to want to do. They've changed the title from triple click home to accessibility shortcut. If you plan on using the switch settings, you're going to want to set this up in accessibility shortcut first. So make sure you go into accessibility shortcut and tap switch control. What this means is, what this is going to let us do is, if we press this home button 3 times, it's going to give us the opportunity to turn on or turn off switch control. Having the ability to turn off switch control that way is really important, because there is a tendency sometimes for you to get stuck within switch mode if you start doing certain things. So being able to turn that on and off easily through a shortcut is key to being able to access your iPad. So let's go into switch control and take a look at this. So there's lots of different options in here. And let's start with switches. If you look at the option for switches, you have to set your switch to be able to access the switch control. We don't have one yet. We're getting one soon, but what you're probably going to use if you're using a physical switch are Bluetooth switches. So to have a Bluetooth switch, you're going to have to go in and you're going to have to hit Bluetooth first. You're going to have to connect your switch. We'll just hit that and say that it's connected. And then you can go back into your general, and you can go into your switches, your accessibility and switches. We'll get down to switches here, switch control. And now what you need to do is you need to set up your switches. So to set up our switches, and we'll wait a second for this to try and catch back up. There we go. So we'll go back into switch control. To set up our switches, what we need to do is we need to tap on switches, and then you can see here you get options for add a new switch. So if you had a physical switch, you'd hit add new switch, and you'd choose external. When you choose external, you would then activate your switch, and it would ask you to name it and then give it a function. I don't have an external switch. I can't show you that, but I will show you how to do it with the full screen or the camera. So your other options are the screen or the camera that you can use as a switch. What the screen lets us do is that when we touch the screen, it'll act in a switch manner. So you can see what I hit screen. If I want to set up screen, I choose full screen, and then it gives me lots of different options. I can use my switch, in this case the screen, to select an item, to pull up the scanner menu, which we'll talk about in a minute, to resume auto scanning, to move to the next item, to move to the previous item, to stop scanning, to tap, to switch apps, to hit the home button, the notification button, to hit Siri to decrease or increase volume. There's a lot we can do, but we can only select one of these things per each switch. So I right now have my full screen set up to be my select item option. The other things that I have set up are the camera options. This camera option is pretty cool, although it doesn't necessarily move super quickly. The camera options, what this lets us do is the camera can sense movement of our head. So if we choose camera, we can choose left head movement or right head movement, and then we would choose the way that we want this set up. So we would choose, just like we chose before, move forward, move back, select something, any of those things. If we look in my switches right now, I have my full screen set up to select, so I tap the screen to select. I have my left head movement set to move to the previous item, my right head movement set to move to the next item. So if I turn switch control on, we can show you quickly how this is going to work. So I'm going to go up here and I'm just going to slide switch control on. And because I have 3 switches set up, I'm doing this as a step-by-step switch. So you can see right now accessibility is selected. When I move my head to the left, it moves that back up 1. When I move my head to the right, it moves that forward one. So I'd like to back up all the way to accessibility here. And then when I hit the screen, it selects that for me. So I'm going to turn switch accessibility off for a second through my shortcut. So I'm just I'm moving my head to select switch control, and then I'm going to tap the screen, and that's going to turn off switch control. So now I'm going to go back into switch control because I want to show you a few more things about it. So that's setting this up with 3 switches so that I can do 3 different things. I can have it. I can go forward, back, and select. And again, my forward is my right head movement, which is the camera watches for a movement, a head movement in the right direction. My back movement is my left head movement, and my select is touching the screen. We also have auto scanning. If we turn auto scanning on, you can see down below it, you can choose your auto scanning time, so the amount of time between each movement. You can choose whether or not you want it to pause on the first item. You can choose here how many times it's going to loop through from 1 to 10. We'll tell you what the auto tap is in 1 second, and you can also set the move to repeat. So let me show you just how auto scanning is going to work now. Once I turn this on, you should start seeing it auto scanning through. It should be scanning at every 1.25. You know what? It's set right now because I have my head switches going. It's set to do the movement with the head switch. But had I turn those off, what it would do, let me just turn off my switch control again. Turn this off. This is where it gets a little bit funky to work with. But had I only have 1 switch set up, I can set that auto scanning. And I'll take those switches off in a second, but I want to show you one more thing before we do that. And that button here is this auto tap. I have auto tap set for 1 second. What auto tap means is while you're scanning, if you touch the screen or touch your switch and then touch your switch again within 1 second, it's going to bring up some other options that you can do with scanning. Well, let's take a look at those as we turn this back on. I'm going to shut off auto scanning for a second. I just want to show you what that double tap means. So now scanning's on. If I tap the screen and tap it again in 1 second, you can see now I have other options. So I got to stay in front of my iPad. I have tap, I have scroll, I have home, I have gestures, device, and setting. So tap will tap on that particular option. Scroll, if we had a function where we're scrolling up and down or side to side, we could do that. So let's go look at scroll. We'll scan over to scroll and tap our screen, and it shows we can scroll up, down, to all the way to the beginning or auto. I'm going to go back now. If we go over to home, it takes us to the home button. If we go to gestures, we'll scroll over to gestures and tap. Gestures allows us to tap, to flick things if we need to move, to pan, to pinch, to tap and hold, to tap, to drag, to hold and drag, to double tap, and you can save several different things in here. We'll go back to back, and we'll take a look at the device options. If we scroll over to device, we can multitask, do the notification center, control center, lock the screen, rotate, mute, decrease volume, increase volume, turn Siri on. The triple click button, this gets us back to those shortcuts. We could shake or screenshot as well. So that's the double tap option. Now if we go all the way back to settings, then also what we get with settings, that was in the device option, what we get with settings is, you know, we can change the item mode, the scan order, we can turn speech on or off, or turn the sound off. So I'm just going to go back and turn off my switches for 1 second. So we'll go all the way into, we'll scroll into devices. I'll go to my triple click home.
Notification center. Center. Slot.
Bear with me while I scan over there. I'm using the head control to scan.
Volume. Increase volume. Clearing.
And then I'll select that.
Voice over to switch cancel. Voice over to switch control. Voice switch control.
Got to see my head.
Voice over. Switch control.
To switch control, turn that off, and then we'll look back in our settings for a second. So that, I mean, those are some of the neat settings. The head control isn't perfect right now, but it does allow you to have access, and you can see buried in that auto tap menu, there's lots of different other things that give us good control with this also. So let me just, we can turn on our hold duration. I'm going to show you some other things here. We can turn on our hold duration. We can ignore the repeat movement. We can change the head sensitivity. I have it at highly sensitive right now, so pretty much any movement of my head when I'm scanning, it's going to go ahead and choose, it's going to recognize that as head movement. We can also turn sound effects. You hear the sound effect of the scrolling moving on. That's nice. You can turn speech on or off. With speech off, it won't speak everything that it's going to. If you go down to the bottom, having the large cursor on is nice. That helps you see a little bit better what is being what you have the option to select at the time. And for the cursor color, you have lots of different colors that you can put up there as well. So what I would like to do is I'm going to turn off a couple of my head movements here. So I'm going to go into switches. I'm going to hit edit. And I will take off the right head movement, and I will take off the left head movement. Right now, all I have is full screen for selecting. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do auto scan, and I'll take this back to the home screen, and I'll show you how we can do this with something like a communication tool. So I'm going to turn on the auto scan. We'll leave it at 1.5 seconds, and we'll just start at switch control from here. So there you see it auto scanning. If I tap twice, I can get into this and go to the home button, tap home. It'll take me home. Now I'm going to have to go over a screen. So another screen that to get over a screen, I'm going to let it scroll through, and when it gets to these buttons on the bottom, I'll tap. And it slides over. Now I want the communication folder up in the top corner here. So I'll let this scroll through. Tap there, and now it's going to go across the screen. When it gets to communication, I'll tap again. It opens my folder. We'll go to Pro Loco to go. We'll open that up. And now we will, I would like to go back, and that I don't want to backspace. I'd like to go back. I'd like to go to the home. There we go. We'll go home, and I can start again. You can see it's right now it's selecting the whole thing for communication. So we'll choose that, choose that, choose that, and let it put it in there. Now it scrolls all the way through. So we'll let it scroll all the way through. And we'll exit the group. Oop, I was too slow on exiting the group. So now we'll get ready to exit. We'll tap to exit. And now what we'll do is let that go through, and then we can once it scrolls through twice, it should stop automatically. So what we'll see there is it stopped, and now in just a second, what we should be able to do is start that up again. So if I tap on the screen, hopefully that'll allow me to start the scanning again. It does. Now we'll let that go through, and when we get to exit the group, I'll tap it again. And now I want to choose want, so I'll choose this one, let it go across, choose want. Let it go all the way to the end. Exit the group. Let it scroll through, and we'll choose a food. So when it gets down to the food, we'll tap again. let it go across, access food, and we'll let it scroll through to where it selects our whole thing for food. There we go. And we'll go through and we'll say we want snacks, so we'll let that scan through. The snack, open that up, and we'll go through here and we'll say that we want fruit or goldfish crackers. We'll choose goldfish crackers. Now when this exits, we'll let it go out, and then we can go up and we can speak something here. So now, if we want to get out of this again, because we can go home by tapping and tapping twice, and then going to the home screen, home button, and getting out to the home screen. If we want to go home again, tap and tap again within a second, hit the home screen, and you can get out of that and begin to get back into what you're doing with auto scanning on your iPad itself here. So this is a really nice tool. If I want to get out of this now and turn it off, I can tap twice quickly, go to the device, wait till it gets to triple click home, get it all the way to triple click home and tap. We'll close that meeting thing that popped up. Sorry about that, but now hopefully this will pop through. So now this has me stuck. It's showing my calendar. Let's just get the switch control and turn that off. Turn that off, and now we can get out of the calendar. A second way to kind of go through and do this would be to turn voiceover on. If switches are running and you want to shut them off, you can turn voiceover on, and that shuts off your switches. Turn voiceover off, and that shuts voiceover off, and your switches are still off. So remember, the key things to this, switching, it works. You can use an external switch. You can use your screen. You can use your head to control it. You need to set it up with a shortcut, though, so that you can get in and out of it. You can get in and out of it quickly, and that way you're able to shut it down and not get locked into controlling it with the switch. Always have that backup there, and then using voiceover, turning voiceover on and off also shuts off your switch control. That's really important to know because you can get stuck in there. Those are just some of the new accessibility features that are built into the new iOS. I think they're really nice. It's a nice feature. It's a nice start, and it's going to go a long way to making the iPad even more accessible. As always, if you have any questions, please feel free to email me at james-stachowyak@uiowa.edu. Thanks for listening.